Okay, let's be real. We live in a world of SUVs. Everywhere you look, it's crossovers and big trucks. So the classic four-door sedan, it can feel like a total throwback, right? But here's the thing, millions of them are still sold. Every single year. And that gets you thinking, what do those buyers know that maybe the rest of us are missing? Let's dig into this little automotive puzzle. No, seriously, why? Think about it. For about the same footprint on the road, you can get a hatchback or an SUV with so much more practical space. So why on earth would you pick the one with that little mail slot of a trunk opening? And look, that is a totally fair criticism. On paper, it really does seem like sedans just waste a whole lot of opportunity. You can't get anything tall in there. Forget about moving any kind of bulky furniture. It feels like you're making a big compromise for what exactly? And I'll be honest, for a long time, I thought the exact same thing.
All right, so let's start right there. Let's make the case against the sedan. Is this thing really just an old-school, inefficient design that's only sticking around out of habit?
The big arguments against it are, well, they're pretty obvious. That trunk lid means you have basically zero height to work with. You want to move, I don't know, a tall plant? A small bookshelf? Yeah, good luck with that. And sure, some of them have folding rear seats, but the hole that opens up is usually tiny. It's nothing like a hatchback where you fold the seats down and bam, the whole back of the car is basically a van. So it really seems like an open and shut case, right? Well, maybe not.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting, because the sedan's secret weapons, its advantages, they aren't things you can just measure with a tape measure. They are these kind of hidden, almost invisible benefits that you really have to feel to get.
See, here's the key. We've all been totally focused on how much stuff can I fit in it. You know, raw volume, versatility. But the sedan, it's playing a completely different game. Its strengths are in these other areas that you won't find on a spec sheet, but you will absolutely feel them every single time you get behind the wheel. And it really all starts with this one word, refinement. Now, what does that mean? It's basically the quality of the experience. How quiet is it? How smooth is the ride? How composed and secure does the car feel when you're just driving down the road? Okay, so the first thing, and this might be the biggest one, is just the noise level. A good sedan is almost always going to be way, way quieter inside than a similar hatchback or SUV. But why is that? It all comes down to these three letters, NVH. It stands for noise, vibration, and harshness. And let me tell you, car engineers are completely obsessed with it. It's a huge part of what makes a luxury car feel, well, luxurious. They're basically fighting a war against all those little annoying sounds and buzzes that just make a long drive feel exhausting. And the physics behind it are actually pretty simple. In a sedan, you've got a solid wall of metal right behind the rear seats. It's a physical barrier that separates you from all the noise coming from the back tires and the exhaust, so that sound gets trapped and muffled back in the trunk. But in an SUV or a hatchback, that big open cargo area acts like a giant echo chamber or a bass drum. It just takes all that road noise and amplifies it right into the cabin with you. All right, next up in this whole refinement thing is how the car actually feels to drive. And if you're someone who actually enjoys driving, like on a fun, curvy road, oh man, the difference between a sedan and an SUV is just night and day. Sedans just feel so much more planted, so much more connected to what's happening. And again, it just comes down to simple physics. Sedans sit lower to the ground, right? So their center of gravity is lower. That means when you go into a corner, they don't lean and sway as much. Engineers call that body roll. They just feel flat and stable. Plus, you don't have this big, heavy tailgate hanging way off the back, so the weight is usually balanced better. It all just adds up to a car that feels lighter on its feet, more agile, and honestly, just more fun. Okay, here's one I bet most people never even think about. Security. We've all heard about smash and grab thefts, and where you put your stuff in your car really matters. And in this department, it is a huge win for the sedan. Just think about it for a second. The trunk of your sedan is basically a locked steel vault. It's totally separate from the cabin. A thief walking by can't see what's in there. And even if they smash a window, they still can't get into the trunk. Now compare that to an SUV. Your laptop bag, your shopping, it's all just sitting there under a flimsy little privacy cover and behind a massive piece of glass. It's a totally different ballgame. Okay, so we've established that sedans are more refined. They're quieter, they handle better. But what about efficiency? You might think it's kind of the same across the board, but nope. The sedan has a couple of really surprising advantages here too. And here is a perfect real-world example. Picture this. It's a freezing cold day. You've got the heat cranked up in the car, everybody's nice and cozy. Then you stop to throw some groceries in the back. If you're in an SUV, you open that giant back hatch and whoosh, all that toasty warm air you paid to heat up is just gone. But in a sedan, you pop the trunk and the cabin stays totally sealed. Your passengers stay, as the source so perfectly put it, perfectly toasted. And that little story perfectly illustrates the first type of efficiency, climate efficiency. It's just a smaller, sealed-off space, so it's way faster to heat up in the winter and cool down in the summer. But the really big one is aerodynamics. The way a car moves through the air, especially at highway speeds, has a massive impact on your fuel economy. See, a sedan has that classic three-box shape. You got the engine, the cabin, the trunk. And that shape is just naturally slippery. The air flows really smoothly over the top and then kind of tapers off the back. But a hatchback or an SUV, they have that flat, chopped-off back end. And what that does is create this big, swirling vacuum of messy air right behind the car. And that messy air literally acts like an anchor. It sucks the car backward and creates drag. That makes the engine work harder just to maintain speed. And hey, if you need any more proof that this stuff really matters, just look at electric cars. Companies like Tesla or Lucid, they are absolutely obsessed with squeezing every last possible mile of range out of their batteries. And what shape are their most efficient cars? Sleek, slippery, sedan-like shapes. That is 100% not a coincidence. It's just physics. So when you start to put all these little pieces together, this really interesting picture starts to form. It turns out the choice between a sedan and an SUV isn't about one being better. Not at all. It's about what you care about most. So let's just lay it all out. When it comes to pure versatility, lugging big, tall stuff around, the hatchback and the SUV are the champs. No question about it. But when you look at almost every single measure of refinement, the sedan comes out on top. It's quieter, it drives better, it's more secure, and it's usually more efficient on the highway. And that, right there, is the big takeaway from all this. It's a fundamental trade-off. It really boils down to this question. Are you buying a car for that 1% of the time you might need to move a big piece of furniture? Or are you buying it for the other 99% of the time when you just want a quiet, comfortable, and fun ride to work? It really is a choice between two completely different design philosophies. The carry anything, anytime approach versus the quality of the everyday journey approach. So that's the question I want to leave you with. Now that you know about all these hidden strengths of the sedan, does it kind of change the way you see them? Which of those two ideas, that ultimate do-anything versatility or that day-in, day-out refinement, which one matters more to you?